When Willow, like a swallow, was blind, I picked her up and brought her home. She liked to nibble my ear and say she was my obedient puppy, Kwong. She also liked to use both hands to measure my body in the dark, saying she wanted to feel my shape. Later, when her sight was restored, I found out she was the missing eldest princess of the Willow family. She had been engaged before she lost her sight. Taking advantage of the fact that she couldn't see my face, I left a death certificate and disappeared to avoid her for 5 years. When I heard she was about to get married, I dared to reappear. But as soon as the plane landed at the airport, I was surrounded by a group of black-suited bodyguards. Willow, like a swallow, held a set of groom's attire tailored by May. Her smile was gentle but carried a stubbornness. The measurements of the fiancé from 5 years ago are not accurate. Be good now. Let me measure you again. The manager pulled me to the door of the room, but I didn't dare to enter because Princess Willow was sitting inside. Through the crack in the door, I heard someone flattering. Your Highness, I heard that you went missing and were blind back then. That period must have been very difficult. Willow chuckled softly. Difficult? Not really. Someone took good care of me, and life was even more comfortable than now. Surely that was your fiancé? What a true love story, finally leading to a happy life. Willow interrupted, her voice sweet yet calm. He's right here. I was startled and looked up, seeing through the crack in the door that Willow was pointing in this direction. To be buried here? Oh right, I'm already dead. My death certificate 5 years ago was confirmed by Willow herself. The manager beside me was also eavesdropping, whispering. That man was really unlucky. If he hadn't died, he would have been successful by now. I laughed. Impossible. The manager disagreed. Why are you so sure? To make the princess agree to take such good care of him, his skills must be extraordinary. That man's seduction techniques must be top-notch. I lowered my head, hiding the guilty conscience in my eyes. Sometimes I couldn't distinguish between the first time Willow and I met, who exactly seduced whom. Back then, she was blind, and her hearing became extremely sensitive. I just whispered a sentence in her ear, but she felt the sound like an exploding bomb, reaching a climax in her head. At that time, I was still naive and curious, asking her what climax actually was. She explained while touching my abs, but accidentally touched somewhere else. Immediately, her neck and collarbone flushed red. Seeing her whole body blushing and stiff, I thought she was about to die and rushed to give her CPR, crying. But she hugged me tightly, using her lips to block mine. I was immersed in memories when a waiter pushing a cart suddenly bumped into us. I instinctively stepped back, and the door swung open. Directly opposite the door, Willow was slowly raising her head, looking in my direction. Our eyes met, and in that instant, my whole body felt frozen. Even the action of turning around became impossible. But it was only for a few seconds. 5 years of struggling in society had trained me to have a fake, cheerful smile. It was truly ridiculous. Although Willow and I had slept in the same bed for 2 years, her slender fingers had caressed my face and body more than my own hands. But to her, I was just a smuggler she had slept with without ever seeing my face. So what if we had slept together? How could someone recognize a face they had never seen? Just as I expected, Willow didn't recognize me. When clinking glasses, her eyes were bright but cold. When that gaze fell on me, it made me inexplicably tense, just like the first time I met her. It was a stormy, thunderous night. I had lost my mother forever at the hospital. On the way home, in tears, I stumbled in a small alley. Willow, soaking wet, leaned against the wall, gasping for breath, dilapidated and pathetic under the dim street light. Her face was full of injuries, but still exquisitely beautiful, making people feel sorry for her. Her tearful eyes were large and luminous, but her gaze revealed vigilance and coldness. I was scared and wanted to run away, but I thought of my mother. My mother was in so much pain on the hospital bed. If someone could save my mother. In the end, I carried Willow back to my shabby rented house, spending all my savings to treat her. At that time, I was uneducated and too poor to recognize how expensive her clothes were. I thought she was just like me, homeless. I even thought that my mother in heaven pitied me, afraid I would be lonely, so she let me meet her. I thought I had a family again, someone to care for. Suddenly, the manager beside me pinched my arm. What are you thinking? You're even smiling. I snapped back to reality, my smile becoming stiff. Seeing my reaction, The manager suddenly said, "Lynn, don't tell me you've fallen for Willow. Let me tell you, she's famously unapproachable. Any man who tries to get close to her ends up miserably." It said her fiancé is her childhood sweetheart, the crown prince of the business world. Their relationship is very deep. Don't be fascinated by her. This type of woman is not someone you can reach. Be careful not to offend her. Offending her is completely. I had already offended her thoroughly when I decided to leave Willow. I had tied her to that $100 bed and ridden her for 3 hours, incidentally telling her that for the past 2 years, I had only been lonely and keeping her for fun. Now a rich woman had taken a fancy to me and wanted to take care of me. I didn't need her anymore. At that time, Willow's face flushed red, crying and hoarsely saying, "Lynn, don't let me catch you. I will." Perhaps for this pampered young lady, being blind was not as humiliating as this. I had already offended her thoroughly. Luckily, I was already dead. This also had to thank her fiancé. Anyway, after tonight's toast, Willow and I would never meet again. Thinking this, I casually walked out to the hotel garden, looked up, and saw a slender figure standing there, snow-white fingers holding a long, slender cigarette. It was Willow. She turned her head to look at me just as I was quickly thinking of how to respond. Suddenly, she called out, "Resurrection?" I was startled. Resurrection? She recognized me? My real name before I was almost exposed. A small dog suddenly rushed from behind, rubbing affectionately against my leg. It was the small dog I used to raise. Because of the difficult choice, I hadn't named it yet. Willow adopted it and named it Resurrection. Resurrection my foot. It's me, a fake dead come back to life person. I inexplicably shuddered. If she knew I wasn't dead and had lied to her, the consequences would be dire. Resurrection, stop messing around. Willow extinguished her cigarette, smiled, and waved at the small dog. But the dog, having not seen me for a long time, kept clinging to my leg, jumping and hopping nonstop. "It seems my dog really likes you." Willow's gaze fell on my face, calm but profound. I tensed up, even thanking the dog circling my legs, giving a reason to cover up the nervousness on my face. "Sorry, maybe I have the smell of beef sauce on me. It splashed on me just now. I'll take my leave first, princess." But before I could step away, Willow suddenly spoke again. "Being a dog is actually very happy." I was stunned. What did she mean by being a dog? As long as you are obedient, your owner will reward you. Being a good dog is not bad at all. Before, when our relationship was passionate, Willow would lie on top of me, nibble my ear, and whine, "I am Aaron's good puppy." My heart jumped to my throat, clenching my palms tightly. "Sorry, princess, I am a human and know nothing about dogs." My blunt words plunged the atmosphere into silence. I wanted to find an excuse to leave, but Willow unexpectedly asked, "Then if you had a good dog, would you abandon it?" "I wouldn't raise a dog." "Why?" "Because I don't have the ability to bear that responsibility. I lost my mother, lost Willow, and also lost my little dog. I won't allow myself to have weaknesses again. I still need to go toast. I won't bother the princess anymore." I turned to leave, but the small dog rushed towards me. My steps faltered, afraid of stepping on it. My whole body swayed and fell forward. A pair of hands from behind reached out, pulling my body and embracing my waist as before. "What's wrong? Are you unwell?" My back pressed against her soft chest. Her soft, worried voice rang in my ear, just like the 2 years we lived together, her caring and taking care of me, making me have the illusion that I could love her until our hair turned white. "Willow, why are you here for so long?" A gentle male voice rang out behind us. Without turning my head, I knew whose voice it was. Tom, Willow's childhood sweetheart fiancé. The voice that breaks dreams always makes people remember it deeply. Tom for me was exactly like that. I remembered very clearly Tom wearing expensive leather shoes, standing in my shabby rented house, saying the first sentence, "This garbage dump. Willow can actually sleep here for 2 years. She really endures for our future." I was clearly not a pushover, but looking at Tom's imposing manner, I couldn't say a word of rebuttal. For the first time, I shed tears of shame for my poverty. But luckily, it wouldn't be like this anymore, because my heart was no longer poor and restless. I quickly pushed Willow away and stood firm on my own. Tom walked from behind. When he saw my face, his expression showed a slight shock, but a few seconds later, he recovered as usual. It seemed his acting skills were even better than mine. Tom smiled and asked me, "Hello, are you a new singer signed with Ms. Ty's company?" "Not yet. Just now. Why were you hugging Willow?" Tom looked at Willow jokingly. "Aren't you afraid of your future fiancé, being jealous?" "Fiancé." Willow gently blinked her long eyelashes, repeating these 3 words, but her beautiful phoenix eyes stared intently at me. The depths of her eyes seemed to have hot magma churning. "Just now, startled by the dog. Thank you, Princess, for catching me. You two continue. I'll take my leave." I finished speaking and left without changing expression. But Willow, wearing high heels, walked over and blocked my path, taking out a wedding invitation from her bag and handing it to me. "A month later is my wedding. You must attend." Her clear voice used a tone of affirmation. Tom teased, "Willow, you are really something. The wedding invitation is still sealed. It has to be opened on that day to see the names of the bride and groom." "Then who can see the bride and groom's names?" I had no interest in listening to their love talk, politely accepted the invitation, and left. On the way back to my room, I casually tore the invitation and threw it into the trash can, not noticing that the torn corner of the invitation revealed a small swallow. I thought meeting Willow again was just an unexpected incident, didn't take it to heart, and focused on my career. Until the manager told me that a big director wanted me to sing the theme song for a movie. With my current insignificant status, this was truly luck falling from the sky. Arriving at the set and seeing Willow, I realized it was not luck at all, but the princess's personal designation. The manager pulled me to greet everyone, and in front of Willow, she took the initiative to speak first. "Mr. Lin, long time no see." The manager laughed and said, "Princess, his surname is Lin, given name is Lin." My heart pounded. That year, after faking my death, I canceled my household registration, went elsewhere, and took my mother's surname again. But the name Lin was given by my mother, and I couldn't bear to change it. Anyway, it wasn't a rare name. Willow's gaze lingered on me, calmly saying, "Perhaps I remembered wrongly. I have an acquaintance who also has the name Lin, but he is dead. The more you talk, the more mistakes you make." I said nothing, pretending to smile socially. The manager, seeing I didn't know what was good for me, secretly glared at me. I pretended not to see. At noon, the staff brought lunch. In the fruit salad portion given to me, there was mango. Mango allergy was something Willow knew best. But if I refused it this time, she would definitely become more suspicious. My allergic reaction to mango was not serious, at most a rash. Taking medicine would solve it. Compared to the trouble I might encounter, this was nothing. I opened the fruit salad box in front of Willow, picked up a piece of mango, intending to put it in my mouth. The next second, Willow actually reached out and snatched my fork. Her action was very hasty, as if angered by something. The mango fell on the table. My manager was stunned. "Princess." Willow took the entire salad dish in front of me and walked away. I heard her instructing her assistant as she walked. "This portion I'll eat. Change his to a hot meal with rice." Soon, the assistant brought me 8 dishes of meat and 1 soup. Here, the price of Fortune Pavilion must be at least 10,000. The manager was dumbfounded, secretly asking me, "Lin, don't tell me you secretly conquered the princess? Ms. Tai, didn't she say she doesn't like men? But the way she looks at you, it's like she only cares about you. In such a big venue, she only saw you." My hand holding chopsticks tightened. "Only cares about me?" It seemed that my being deceived back then was not laughable at all. Even Ms. Tai, a strong and sharp woman, was also deceived. At first, when I picked Willow up and brought her home, she was blind, with wounds all over her body. I was so poor that all my clothes were patched. It's not that I never thought of taking her to a charity house, but Willow seemed to sense my thoughts. When I got up to open the door, she grabbed my clothes with her wounded hand. Don't chase me away." She looked straight in my direction. Those eyes, though blind, were as bright as the sun, mesmerizing, easily making people sink. My heart immediately softened. I asked her where her parents and relatives were. She just said she didn't know. She lowered her head, her small oval face still bearing unhealed wounds, like a homeless puppy. I thought she must have been abandoned heartlessly, so she didn't remember anything. I started working 3 jobs a day to earn money to treat her. Every night when I got off work, Willow would hug me, warming my hands and feet. "Aaron, you've worked hard." When my eyes get better, I will give you the best life, the best environment, so you don't have to work so hard again, so you can enjoy happiness for the rest of your life. Sorry, Aaron, it's me who makes you so tired. Wait a little longer, I will definitely make it happen. Her hands and feet were very warm, pressing against my chest, warmth spreading throughout my body, hitting straight into my heart. Hearing her say this, my heart softened, infinitely sweet, not even realizing why she spoke so confidently and gently, and the suppressed guilt that flashed in the depths of her eyes. How can I blame you? I am a man. It's my duty to earn money to support the family. Wife, I've thought about it. When we save enough money, we will go to the hospital for an eye exam. I heard there is the best ophthalmology department there. No matter what, I have to cure your eyes so you can see the world with me. If there's a chance, we will have children. If not, it's okay. Anyway, we are each other's dearest loved ones. Also, later, I will buy a house that belongs to us so you can live more comfortably, not so cramped, and it won't leak or lose power. Every time I said these rambling words, Willow would just hug me tightly, raise her face, and kiss me continuously, then lie on top of me, teasing me. So talkative. Your mouth can only be used to kiss me. Can't say anything else. Now thinking back, perhaps Willow didn't want to hear me talk. Anyway, those dreams for her were the life of ordinary people, while she was a young lady who grew up in luxury, born with a silver spoon in her mouth. The well-off life in her eyes and in my eyes were completely different. In this shabby rented house, we were two lonely souls relying on each other to keep warm. But stepping out of this rented house, we were two different kinds of people, worlds apart. During the recording break, Tom arrived. The crown prince of the business world, Willow's childhood sweetheart, attracted everyone's attention. Tom distributed afternoon tea, and finally handed a chestnut cake he made himself to Willow. Why are you free to come listen to the movie soundtrack recording today? You're listening so intently. Willow didn't reply, her tone indifferent. Because I want to meet a very important person. Everyone immediately oohed and teased. Tom also smiled indulgently. Someone boldly asked, Princess, is the good news of you and President Tom planned for next month? Willow's tone changed from indifferent to serious. I will confess to the person I love at the wedding next month. I didn't listen anymore, turned around, and went out to get some air to clear my head. 8 dishes of meat and 1 soup. At noon I ate too much. My head was dizzy from the carbohydrates. After getting some air, I was about to go back when I heard voices talking from the side door. Willow, do you feel that man named Lynn's voice sounds like him? It was Tom speaking. But he died 5 years ago. That year, I asked you to go give him money to comfort him. You just gave a little more, and he took the money and left so decisively. He probably didn't love me as much as that. He clearly loved money more. In fact, Tom had misunderstood. At that time, I wasn't so brainless as to know that money was more important than women. I took the money decisively for another reason. First, because I was inexperienced and humiliated by Tom to the point of losing face. Second, half a month before Tom came to my house, I had accidentally seen him and Willow meeting. That day, the shop owner where I worked part-time had something to do and had to close early. I came home early and saw the woman who was supposed to be blind and amnesiac standing in the yard, embracing a handsome man. Her wide-open eyes were full of intimacy and charm. When looking around, her gaze became sharp, not at all like a blind person. The blind person was me. I guessed correctly. At that time, I was so weak and insecure, pathetically looking at this scene, my heart aching. Squatting in the corner of the alley, I cried for a long time. But when I got home, I still pretended nothing had happened, even not daring to ask her. I was afraid of knowing the truth, afraid Willow would leave, and I would become alone again. It was just that later, Tom brought money to my house, showing me intimate photos of him and Willow, even photos in bed. I, an honest man, was completely enraged. My mother taught me not to take a woman that others had used. Such a woman was not worth my wholehearted sacrifice. So, I angrily rode Willow for 3 hours. Afterwards, I cooperated with Tom's plan to fake my death, took the money, and disappeared. Now thinking back, the only regret was that I took too little money back then. After the photos were taken, a week passed without incident. I thought Willow might have been persuaded by Tom and wouldn't look for me again. That night, I was packing my luggage when the manager, Ty, was browsing her friend's circle. Oops. Heard from friends that the princess's pet dog is lost. Been looking for it for days and still haven't found it. The small dog was lost. That year when I faked my death and left, I couldn't take the small dog with me, so I sent it to the family selling roast chicken at the alley entrance, thinking it could get some leftover bones and meat at the restaurant. The princess bought a new dog, probably wouldn't look for the old dog anymore. Ty's words made me even more uneasy. It seemed Willow, that ruthless woman, wouldn't let me go. I drove in the rain to the old rented house. Sure enough, the door was unlocked. I hurriedly put away my umbrella and rushed inside. Little dog, I know you're here. Click, the light turned on. The small dog was not there, but a slender, lonely figure was sitting at the old plastic table. In her hand, she was still holding a lady's cigarette. When she looked up at me, her eyes were even redder than the cigarette filter. Aaron, you're back? It was Willow. I saw the small dog chained at her feet and knew I had fallen into a trap, but I still wanted to struggle. Princess, what are you calling me? Willow stared at me without blinking. That night, Resurrection was so affectionate to you. It has never taken the initiative to approach others. The wedding invitation I gave you, you tore it to pieces and threw it in the trash. If you really didn't know me, you wouldn't need to do that. Attending the wedding is beneficial for accumulating your connections. I asked people to find you to record the song. As soon as you sang, I knew it was you. And your eyes when you saw the mango were hesitant, but you deliberately wanted to eat it for me to see. 8 dishes of meat and 1 soup, coriander you don't eat, mushrooms you also don't eat. Moreover, Aaron, I have counted you countless times. Do you think I wouldn't recognize you? Since I had been completely unmasked, I didn't pretend anymore. Yes, I am Aaron. So what does the princess want from me? After riding me, wanna run? Willow, wearing high heels, walked towards me, her whole body full of anger. I thought she would angrily slap me a few times. Anyway, that breakup was really cruel. For a whole month, my legs were sore to the point of not being able to squat down. She probably wasn't an exception either. But Willow came in front of me, reached out, and placed her hand on my face. Her soft fingertips gently caressed. Turns out you look exactly like I imagined. In these years, I have drawn your face in my head countless times. Very handsome. She stared at me. You are the most handsome man I have ever met. I didn't evade, calmly said, Is this game fun? Willow's hand froze. Aaron, she called softly. I am a noble young lady, now back to the peak of power. Wealth is all in my hands. Now starting to remember those sweet days, reminiscing about the love game in the slum area before? Do you really want to play? Okay, I'll give you money. You play with me. I looked straight at her. Perhaps my serious expression angered Willow. She stared at me, gritting her teeth. You only want money, right? For money, even your name and home you can throw away, right? That's right. Not only that, that year taking 3 million, I even faked my death and ran away. Now thinking back, I was really stupid. You are the princess of the top wealthy family, the Willow family. I saved your life. Taking 30 million is not excessive. Willow suddenly hugged me tightly, tiptoed to cover my mouth. One hand snatched the belt on my long skirt, domineeringly tied my hands. Her red lips also gradually moved down to my collarbone. I couldn't evade, nor did I evade anymore. Want to sleep? Come on. What am I afraid of? Anyway, even when you were blind, I slept with you. Now you are a noble princess, sleeping with you. I'm making a big profit. Willow was provoked by me to the point of almost losing her breath. With both hands pushing my chest, she wanted to press me onto that $100 bed. Then she seemed to think of something, pulled my hand, and walked outside. I was taken by Willow to a villa. She pulled me out of the car, into the villa. She squatted down to change me into warm slippers. The next second, she stood up, hugged my neck, forced me to bow my head, and forcibly kissed me. While she was nibbling my neck, I deliberately provoked her. Why not in the rented house anymore? Does Princess feel that place is dirty, not worthy of you anymore? Willow's action on my red lips froze. You have rhinitis. The blanket there hasn't been changed for a long time. Lots of dust. I was stunned, but a few seconds later, I recovered as usual. I was no longer the naive and silly boy who would be moved to tears by a little warmth. Because when the heart is no longer restless, you will find that those warmth can all be given to yourself. Thinking this, I sneezed, and snot uncontrollably flowed out, sticking to Willow's backhand. But she didn't dislike it at all, immediately stood up, took tissue to wipe it for me. She took nasal spray from the refrigerator and brewed a cup of hot jujube flower tea, handed it to me. So well prepared, it seemed there was a man living here. I smiled faintly. Princess is so thoughtful. Do you also take care of President Tom like this? Why should I take care of him? He and I have nothing to do with each other. About to get married, and still have nothing to do with each other? You rich people play really complicated. I won't marry him. The so-called engagement between us is just something the elders said casually. The wedding invitations have also been sent out. Saying these words, Willow, do you have a single true sentence? Willow raised her head to look at me, her eyes revealing tension. Aaron, if I say I want to marry you. Impossible. I interrupted her. Willow, do you think we have reached this point, and I will still marry you? Willow's red lips trembled a few times. No matter what I say, you won't believe me anymore, right? Is it from when you knew I was pretending to be pitiful to deceive you, Willow, that you didn't want to trust me anymore? We have long been strangers. You walk your princess path, I walk my commoner path. We will not have any intersection. I was always calm, but smiled at her. Willow, don't say anything. The arrogant and domineering look when kissing me just now suddenly disappeared. She lowered her head, her long black hair falling down, her beautiful and exquisite eyes also becoming gentle. She knelt down, squatting in front of me, tightly holding the tissue I used to wipe my snot, her soft white hands slightly trembling. Again, this puppy-like, coquettish appearance. I pretended not to see, playing dumb. Willow hoarsely said, Aaron, will you come to my wedding? No. I refused without hesitation. If you come to my wedding, I will give you a 1-year contract with Willow Music, okay? Aaron, her hoarse voice seemed to carry pleading. I didn't bother to think carefully, immediately agreed. Okay. Willow Music was the top record company in the entertainment industry. A contract that was hard to come by in 100 years. Newcomers without background like me, even if they fought tooth and nail, wouldn't get it, but she offered it for free. Why not take it? A word spoken is like a galloping horse, hard to chase. Aaron, you must come. Willow drove me back to the apartment. Before leaving, she emphasized again that I must come to the wedding. I didn't understand what weird hobby this young lady had. When getting married, she liked to have her ex-lover there. Didn't understand, and didn't want to understand. Arriving at the apartment, I found someone I didn't want to meet standing at the door. Tom. He coldly looked at me. Mr. Lin, I didn't expect you to dare to come back. Do you think you seduced Willow to recognize you, and I won't be able to do anything to you? In fact, from Willow's performance tonight, I had guessed the whole story. It was Tom who deceived her, so Willow thought I abandoned her heartlessly because I wanted more money. But we didn't trust each other, so we couldn't blame anyone. I smiled and said, President Tom, do you want to ban me? Are you sure you don't know that all our conversations that year? I have recorded them all. I lied. That year, I was so naive. How could I have so many tricks? But Tom was clearly intimidated by me. Clearly, Willow was his weakness. These two men were even more infatuated than I was before. But the experiences of the past few years also told me that the more you endure, the more the other party will take advantage. Tom was speechless by what I said. Before leaving, perhaps he felt he had lost, so he couldn't help but turn around and say, Willow and I are going to have a wedding at the beginning of next month. I know. I waved at him. When she was with me, she was still a virgin. I taught her very well. Her skills in serving people are top-notch. Wish you a happy wedding night. I slammed the door shut, feeling truly relieved. That year, Tom came to find me, humiliating me. This matter, in fact, in my heart had passed. But he kicked the photo frame of my mother, making it fall and shatter. This feud, now finally avenged. Signing a contract with Willow Music, I became very busy. If the manager hadn't reminded me, I would have almost forgotten Willow's wedding. Wedding day, I came as scheduled, but unexpectedly became the main character. The wedding invitation had to be opened on that day to be considered an entry card, but it wrote the bride's name as Willow and the groom's name as Lin. All the guests were extremely shocked. Tom angrily knelt down and begged Willow, but it was useless. This matter quickly climbed to the hot searches, occupying the top 5. Hashtag Willow's wedding, hashtag who is Willow's groom, hashtag Tom kicked out, hashtag princess's moonlight. Lin hashtag Lin fake death hashtag domineering female CEO loves me. Willow, wearing a wedding dress, stepped onto the stage, in front of all the media, recounted the whole story of that year. She said it was all her fault. She didn't tell me her true identity because she wanted to protect me. She said she had never promised anything to Tom or the Tom family. The wedding was arranged by her single-handedly from beginning to end. She only said she wanted to get married. She didn't say who the groom was. She also said she understood Tom's personality, knowing he had found someone to smear me as a gigolo. Once I became famous, I would be ridiculed for life. Even if explained clearly, the damage couldn't be erased. So she wanted to nip this conspiracy in the bud. Finally, Willow pulled her wedding dress and ran towards me, who was stunned. She actually knelt down, holding out a ring, proposing to me. Of course, I refused. After refusing Willow's proposal, I suddenly became famous. I became the ideal model for men all over the internet. Turns out you can pick up a beautiful wife by the roadside. This is ancestors' grave in the right place. Princess actually knelt down to propose. If this is not true love, what is? Her status and position. How many men kneel down and beg her? Still, the netizens' brains are muddled, really muddled. Don't be so naive. Angered the princess? I wasn't angry. Willow, I took this opportunity to release a new album. This album, I spent 3 years polishing. The response was very good. I climbed to the top of various music charts. My career soared like a kite. Within a year, I won awards and became famous everywhere. I had many fans, among which the most diehard fan was Willow. After the failed proposal, she started pursuing me. The princess pursuing someone was also grand and spectacular. I went to receive an award. She used more than 10 luxury cars to clear the way for me. Wherever I went to attend events, she would be present on time. As long as it was a product I endorsed, she would spend money to buy it all, then organize lucky draws to give away for free to my fans. My birthday, she bought the entire building in the center of Beijing, using LED lights to create a birthday greeting wall for me. Hashtag Princess today, pursuing her husband became a regular topic on WoW. Every day someone checked in. I had made it clear, but Willow still did this. I didn't reminisce anymore. I worked hard to develop my career, not daring to stop even a little, afraid that stopping would mean not being able to move forward anymore. I was someone who started from a starting line further back, so I had to run faster than others. One evening, I left the event hotel. A truck drove straight towards me. I didn't have time to dodge. The next second, a familiar slender figure appeared behind me, pushing me forward. Willow and I fell to the ground together, chaos all around. After examination at the hospital, I was not injured. Willow fractured a bone and needed to rest. The perpetrator was caught, sent by my competitor company. Willow was forced to stay in the hospital for a few days. The manager, Ty, hinted that I should visit Willow. I didn't answer, lowered my head, looking at the keychain in my hand. This keychain was dropped by Willow from her coat pocket when she rushed towards me. It was also the key to the old country house in my hometown. That year after my mother passed away, I didn't have money to buy a grave in the cemetery, so I brought her ashes back to my hometown for burial. When faking death and leaving, in a hurry, I forgot to take the key. Why did Willow have this keychain? I bought a plane ticket, immediately flew back to Southern Stream, arrived at the door of the country house, opened the door. Rushing in was not dust, but fresh air. The house was cleaned spotlessly. My mother's photo was hung neatly in the middle of the wooden table, surrounded by offerings, all fresh items. I walked over and knelt down on the cushion beside the incense burner. There were many envelopes. I picked one up. The date below was 5 years ago, exactly when Willow had just regained her sight, but was hiding it from me. My dearest husband, Aaron, when you receive this letter, I have already left our home. But this is only temporary. Don't worry, we have already pledged our vows in front of Mom's spirit tablet. You are my only man. Willow is your wife. This will never change. First, I want to solemnly reintroduce myself to my husband once again. My surname is Willow. Given name is Willow, the eldest daughter of the wealthiest family in Beijing, heir to Willow Gold Group. Height 1.68 m, 49 kilograms. ID number is 111X. Deceiving you when we met was out of necessity. Husband, you must seriously read carefully and give your wife a chance to explain. That year when you met me in the alley. Before leaving the country house in my hometown, Aunt Zhang, the neighbor, called me back. Aaron, long time no see. Is your health still good? Still good, Annie. Long time no see you too. Auntie, is your health still good? Very good. Why are you going alone? Didn't your wife come with you? Have you two had children? Boy or girl? Wife? Auntie, I'm not married. Nonsense. You're lying to this old lady. Your wife comes to sweep your mother's grave every year, you know. Not just 3 days of New Year, any holidays, big or small. She comes, every time bringing lots of things, also sharing with us neighbors, saying when we were little, we must have taken care of you. I was stunned. Willow came to sweep my mother's grave every year. Aaron, your wife looks very pretty, very beautiful. Looks like a young lady from a wealthy family, but doesn't dislike your country house. She can live here too. Last year, Annie saw her even bringing roasted sweet potatoes to give everyone. As a result, hearing her crying secretly in the room, calling your name, saying she missed you very much, asking when you would come back. And the year before last, Aunt Wong at the village entrance told her that you had died. She angrily kicked her high heels, even broke the fence at the village entrance, saying you absolutely wouldn't die, saying she didn't believe it, saying she would wait until you came back. Hee, this girl is really lucky, really waited for you to come back. See, now the fence at our village entrance is all brand new. Heard it cost tens of thousands. It's your wife who sent people to install it. After installation, also gave rice, flour, beef to every household, saying if you come back, don't tell you about her repairing the fence. Oops, why did I tell you? This girl is really silly, so rich. I took all the letters, immediately flew back to Beijing. I, full of rain and wind, arrived at the hospital. At this time, Willow was drinking porridge. She clearly didn't expect me to actively come to find her. When she saw me appear, she hurriedly got out of bed, even dropping the porridge bowl. Porridge spilled on her. Without even wiping, she walked towards me. Her beautiful eyes stared intently at me. Her leg accidentally bumped into the chair. Her secretary behind her whispered, "Princess, please slow down. Mr. Lin has come himself. He definitely won't run." My gaze shifted to her bandaged white and tender arm. Immediately knew her hand was still not healed. "Don't move." I supported her. I helped her sit down. She stared at me intently at close range, the joy in her eyes almost overflowing. The secretary still wanted to say something, but was secretly kicked by her, then hugged her leg, cried out in pain, and slipped out. "Why are your hands so cold?" Willow gently said. "Tell them to bring hot soup." "Where have you been these 2 days?" "Not at the hospital." This was wanting to probe my whereabouts. This woman was still so domineering. I laughed. "Anyway, you have already planted many spies beside me. Why still need to ask me?" Willow pouted, saying nothing. Again that puppy-like coquettish look. "You went to Southern Stream hometown?" I took out the letters. "Letters, you only read a few lines. The rest, you want to hear me say? You ask, I answer." She replied decisively. "Anything you ask, I will say." Even bank card passwords. I have more than 100 cards. Passwords are all your birthday. From Willow's answer, I finally pieced together the whole truth of that year. That year when I picked up Willow in the alley, she had just suffered a serious car accident. The perpetrator was her father's illegitimate son, her younger brother. Her younger brother had hired assassins from Hong Kong. The purpose was to kill her. The first week I brought Willow home, her memory was really chaotic, sometimes awake, sometimes drowsy. So when I asked her about her parents and relatives, she basically couldn't say. Staying at my house for half a month, Willow completely regained consciousness, but she didn't immediately tell me her identity. She didn't want me to be implicated. At that time, Willow Group was in a period of power struggle. Even I often heard gossip at the alley entrance, knowing a little. When Grandpa Willow passed away, the inheritance was given to the granddaughter he loved most. Other illegitimate children were not satisfied, thinking how could a woman inherit the industry, strongly preventing Father Willow from openly bringing back the mistress to live in the family. Willow's mother was targeted by assassins. Willow was framed and went missing. She was afraid those half-brothers would come to seek revenge, implicating me. She recuperated, waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. Staying at my house for 5 years, she finally found an opportunity. In these 5 years, I wanted to tell you the truth many times, but I was afraid you would also worry and fear like me. I was also afraid you would feel my identity was too dangerous and not want me anymore. In fact, from the third year, my new assistant had already found me, but I asked him to secretly protect us, not to startle the snake in the grass. Once found by those younger brothers, the consequences would be dire. I pursed my lips, thinking for a moment, still couldn't help but ask. Then the matter of you hugging Tom in front of my house. What's that about? Willow frowned, then completely understood. Turns out you saw that scene, so you misunderstood. That day, one of my younger brothers came to find me, and Tom cooperated to act out a scene. At that time, I also regained my sight for a moment, about 20 minutes, then couldn't see again. Moreover, the Tom family and my mother's family had a relationship of interest. Father Tom very much hoped I could win. Tom was just a messenger. I suddenly understood. When she hugged Tom, her eyes were looking around. Turns out she was not afraid of my sudden appearance. But because she suddenly regained her sight for a moment, plus there were enemies lurking in the dark, she was nervously observing. At that time, the group needed me to preside over a meeting to turn the tide, so I left in a hurry, also didn't dare to come back to find you. I had already written these letters, intending that when I returned to the group, I would send them to you so you would know the whole truth. I asked Tom to give you a sum of money, to act, to say I didn't need you anymore, to let you get lost, so you wouldn't be considered a target by my younger brothers. They would think you were an unimportant person. I just didn't expect Tom to secretly give you money, and also reveal our bed photos. I also didn't expect you to take the money and really leave. Before leaving, you even said you had found a rich woman who had taken a fancy to you. You know how long I was angry? Every time I was angry. In the end I would think, hoping the rich woman you like is not as rich as me, so you would turn around and still come back to me. Willow's beautiful eyes looked deeply into mine, carrying a choked voice and self-blame. I said these words not to shift all the blame to Tom. Aaron, I know I was wrong. I should have explained clearly to you earlier. I have understood that loving each other is facing everything together, not being self-righteous, thinking of doing good for you. Aaron, I'm sorry. I love you. Can you give me another chance? I didn't answer Willow's last question. After the misunderstanding of that year was resolved, I felt we both had faults. I was wrong for being too weak, not having the courage to ask clearly. She was wrong for being too conceited, not understanding the meaning of love. Loving each other is about sharing together, whether big or small matters. 5 years of separation, can't blame anyone. It was we who didn't know how to love each other. A month later, Willow was discharged from the hospital. I also publicly announced on Weibo that I had a woman I liked, and I was waiting for an opportunity to confess to her. Willow didn't ask me who it was, just sent me a message. If she treats you badly, tell me. I will find someone to beat her up. That's Princess's personality. I called her back. She said, have some gossip to tell you. That year, the drama I made at the wedding, that rural video, ruined Tom's reputation. The second month, he went abroad. You know, the Willow family and the Tom family have cut off all relations and will not cooperate in business anymore in the future. As for Tom, if you want me to make him pay more. I laughed. No need. People have already figured it out. Yesterday even messaged me, apologizing to me, saying he had gotten married hastily abroad. His wife gave birth to twins for him, asking when will I accept you? What did you reply? Didn't you already post on Weibo? Already have a woman you like. What about you recently? Met any new men lately? Recently I'm busy. Willow changed the subject. Are you at the studio? Have you had breakfast? Miss Time must have prepared it for you already. It's you who prepared it. She was silent. I imagined her puppy-like appearance. I told you not to prepare these things for me. Every time she would obediently lower her head and admit her mistake, but turning around, still definitely had to prepare it. I asked her, and she would pretend to be wronged. How can there be a woman who is both good at being coquettish and good at taking care of people like you? Oh right, Willow, my mother found me a few days ago. She found you? What did she say? Don't worry, I will find her. She said your age is no longer young, so getting married and not having children is not good for health. She asked what your intentions are. I said I have a woman I like, and at the performance next month, I will publicly confess to her. Will you also come to attend? Next month, I'm busy, have to go on a business trip to America, probably can't go. Willow's voice suddenly dropped. Even her breathing disappeared, as if the next second she would jump into the river to commit suicide. I tried hard to hold back my laughter. Then there's no other way. If the female lead doesn't come, I can't confess, can only change the person I like. The other end of the line heard a thud sound, probably Willow's phone falling to the ground. Her secretary's hurried voice rang out. Princess, don't run. Your car is right there, let me drive. I know the venue for Mr. Lin's event. Your hand can't drive. You're still wearing high heels too. 3 years after marrying Willow, she gave birth to a daughter for me. When our daughter was 5 years old, we took her back to our Southern Stream hometown, living in the old country house, and took her to sweep my mother's grave. Our daughter's clear, childish voice echoed in the mountains and forests. Grandma, I am Yin Yin, here to visit you with Mommy and Daddy. Mommy said she will love Daddy very much, so Grandma can rest assured over there. Oh, Grandma, Daddy said you used to sing very well too. Now I'm also learning to sing. Now I'll sing for Grandma, okay? I hugged Willow's slender waist, lowered my head to look at our daughter, who had some resemblance to her mother, my eyes filled with happiness and peace. Waiting for our daughter to finish singing, I carried her, holding Willow's hand. We walked leisurely together. The sun rose on the horizon. My love, I called her gently. Willow tilted her head to look at me, her beautiful eyes filled with love. You know what, my love? I lowered my head, leaned close to her ear, and mysteriously said, I love you. From the moment I met you. Willow's eyes lit up, even brighter than the dawning sunrise. She tiptoed, imprinted her lips on mine. She said, word by word, extremely solemnly, Husband, I also love you. I had already sworn in my heart, I only want you. If I can't wait for you, I won't marry anyone. Willow loves Lin, until death do us part, forever and ever.